Hello, you're back with Dave and Tim at a single malt review, and many moons ago, in roughly our fourth video review, in February 2015 no less, we looked at the earlier incarnation of Glenmorangie's Quinta Ruban. This was a port-finished single malt whisky, aged then 12 years old. Times have changed, and so have we, and so has Quinta Ruban. It is now a 14-year-old, finished this time in ruby port instead of tawny port. So it's time to revisit a bit of a blast from the past, except new.
Yes, indeed.
And look at the fresh version with our fresh, honed, whiskey-tasting eyes.
Yeah, if you do
tongues.
go back to the bloody dark ages of the channel, you will find all kinds of horrors, including a single-digit scoring system, which we have retired long ago. But by all means, go and look at our rubbish early stuff if you really want to. But it will not serve as a particularly good comparison to this new version. So please don't compare it to the older video. Though if you've got an old bottle yourself, we would love to hear people's thoughts about a direct comparison. We don't have any old stock here to compare it with directly, so we'll just have to talk about the new one. And if anyone has thoughts, then please let us know in the comments. But
I have fond memories of the original version of Quinta Ruban, so I'm looking forward to trying this one.
It's always been a reliable, constant release of a port-finished whisky, of which there are not a great many. They often pop up as special releases, one-offs. Rarely do they manifest as year-round available whiskies like this. So we shall see what we've got here. Mechanically, it's not that much different. Ruby port casks as opposed to tawny port casks.
After the initial maturation, most of maturation, in fact, in ex-bourbon barrels.
Yeah. So, does it even say how long this one was? No, it doesn't. I should have looked that up, how long the finish was, because that can make a huge difference.
Anywhere from a few months to a couple of years, depending on
we'll just have to do it by taste, which is probably the truest way after all.
Any mention of colouring or chill filtration on there?
No, we'll be able to find chill filtration ourselves. Colour...
it's a wonderful colour.
Yeah, it is a wonderful colour. I wonder whether... let us know. I could have looked that one up as well. God, I really wasn't prepared for this one. Getting slow after all these weeks and months not doing everything properly. So anyway, might be coloured, might be chill filtered. One of those we'll be able to find out. But I would expect quite a bit of colour from a spell in, especially if it's fresh, as in it had only held port, not whisky before, which we'll assume is the case. Wouldn't expect quite a bit of colour to come out of that wood. So I'm going to say likelihood of colouring. Less. Likelihood of chill filtration, we'll find out.
Yeah.
So, on the nose. That's a port finish, alright.
Yep.
That
is good hints of
port finish.
There's notes, so I get quite a coppery note, like the smell of hot copper.
Yeah, it may be influenced that we've been smelling some hot copper today. There's a sort of 5 metres that way, there is a still doing its thing, distilling a wee bit of rum.
On that side. So, yes. However...
But yes, no, there is a bit of hot metal in here.
Yeah.
Sort of hot, not quite tin, but just a hot brass or hot copper.
Now, I'm no port connoisseur, but I do like one. But there is a notable difference between ruby port and tawny port, including how they influence whiskey that then goes into the resulting barrel.
Yeah, ruby port. Well, I mean, the wood may have been used over and over and over again, and it certainly would have. The wood in ruby port holds the port for a lot less time. It's more of a rest than a maturation, so it will be picking up fresher flavours rather than more. It'll be picking up fresh fruity flavours rather than the more sort of rustic flavours that you get from tawny port.
I do personally prefer tawny, including for whiskey finishes. It adds a degree of sort of a tempestuous. Dark storminess to it.
I think that's probably would be most whiskey drinkers' opinion. They would prefer tawny because it is more woody. It is more akin to whiskey flavours than the quite vibrant, fruity, younger ruby port, which is not going to vintage port whatsoever because can't afford it anyway. Forget about it. Doesn't exist. Anyway, let's see what we've got here. Ooh, chocolate, just before I put this one on the tongue, which is, I think, the great leveller of is this a port finish or is it not, is a milk chocolate.
Ooh.
Anyway, what do we got?
On the tongue, there is a strong hit of lime zest. It is a really sharply sweet acidic citrus. In addition to, milk chocolate. Some
It is.
creaminess, some soft fruits.
That's really youthful
Yeah.
for 14 years.
14 years.
That's quite interesting. That's got quite that's still got a fairly keen edge to it. 14 years, I would have expected something quite a bit more like softer, smoother.
What, oddly, it may just be because we tried it semi-recently, this is, for me, evoking memories of the Cotswolds English single malt we were tried not too long ago, which is matured in, I think, combination of bourbon and red wine barrels.
Yeah, thinking back, I think there was a very distinct malt barley flavour to that one.
That was a stunningly young whiskey, and didn't have any fortified wine casks involved, but there are some common elements here.
I'm getting that, because I'm thinking back many years now since I tried the original 12. I wonder if this somehow, paradoxically, bizarrely, tastes a little bit more youthful than the 12. It's the oddest thing.
Yeah, maybe more time spent in those bourbon barrels, and with the ruby port casks imparting less of a footprint compared to the tawny port of the original.
I really wish I had something to compare this to now, because I think there's something quite odd going on here. I think, to wildly theorise, it tastes to me like they have spent, though they've spent longer in casks generally, I think the bourbon wood might have been more used. It might have been a fill advanced from the previous one, because I'm getting it's happening again. I'm getting the idea that the finish on here, though it's quite complete, is a little bit detached from the underlying whiskey. But it's not that they're poorly joined together. It's that I don't think the bourbon maturation has really done enough.
Interesting. Yeah, a refill bourbon cask does give you less flavour up front, but over a much longer period gives you amazing subtlety and depth of flavour.
Yeah.
It really takes time to evolve. So
We're going to have to rely on you guys for this one. Anyone that has been able to make the direct comparison, does it taste to you like the bourbon aspect of the whiskey doesn't have as much wood character coming through?
I recall a richer and deeper flavour from the original Quinta
It's the
Ruban.
depth, it's the richness, and it's the depth. I think the port aspect of this, however long it's been doing the finish, that is fine, that's not a problem. But I think it's kind of wobbling on top of a slightly more Spartan maturation in bourbon, and because it's gotten longer, the only theoretical sense I can make out of that is that the wood was more heavily used and it didn't take up. It's more spirit-driven whiskey.
But comparisons aside, and treating this as its own whiskey as it is, this is lovely. This is a very tasty dram, though. It's got a good bourbon cask backbone. It has a robust, flavourful and fruity port finish, and the two, I think, are harmonising nicely. There isn't a clash. There isn't a sharp jolt from one to the other. You get one that flows smoothly into the next, with a smooth evolution of flavour and aroma and nuance in your nose and on your tongue.
You getting any cloud there? I'm not. I'm thinking maybe chill filtered here.
It's hard to say. Yeah, maybe a little, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd say probably.
And normally, if there's no chill filtration, that is front and centre on the label, because that's
typically
want to know. I'll double check just so I don't look 100% stupid all the time.
Right, I think with water, that fixes some of the problem I had. It glues these two halves of the whiskey together a bit more, but it's still, I think that is, for me personally, still a bit of a problem. If you imagine the whiskey like a series of train cars, the port car, that's definitely the one in front. It's the most dominant flavourly. It's the most dominant in terms of flavour. But it is distinctly separate, to my palate, to the bourbon matured whiskey underneath.
I added just a modest splash of water, but that's turned extremely mild and very sweet.
I think we might be heading for a slightly divergent score here. Again, I wish I had the other one to compare it to, but I think this one is not as... I don't think it's as composed as the previous one, and as to other good examples of finished, even port-finished whiskey that we've tried recently. They just seem a little disconnected. I think, it would be fascinating to be able to try its two components, to be able to try this before it went into the portwood, because I think we'd be seeing to dissect it in my mouth, I think we'd be seeing quite a spirit-driven, not very oaky at all, blank spirit that went in for the finish.
Well, I'm imagining, I have this mental image of someone's like some sort of fussy, snobby whiskey purist who tried the original Quinta Ruban and said, oh, that's a bit young and it's a bit too porty. Can you maybe make it more like a real whiskey, make it a bit older and dial down the port a little. So then they made this, and that chap then took a sip and said, perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird stuff. Like I say, I think we're heading for a contentious score here.
It is yes, it's still an eminently drinkable whiskey. Yeah. It is sweet, it is accessible, it carries its bourbon and its port influences, carries them well. It's not as extravagant, really. Yeah. And so it could perhaps have been.
I think, there's that. It is the lack of cohesion that is my caveat from this one. Which,
if you want to experience a robust, a distinctly port-finished whiskey, this probably isn't the very best way to do it. It is a good whiskey. It's not a brilliant example of a port-finished whiskey.
Lacks integration. Why don't you go first on your score?
Sure.
And we'll see if I'm right about the gap here.
We know I'm a sucker for port maturation and port finishes in whiskey. I like them a lot. I like them strong. So that colours my perceptions here, but I still rate this one a firm 82. It is drinkable, enjoyable, flavourful whiskey. It has some shortcomings, but that's not going to stop me enjoying it.
We're not as far apart as I thought we were going to be. In fact, we're much closer together. I thought I was marking pretty hard, giving this one an 81, but no, that's apparently we are in sync here once again, and it's not for the finish isn't the problem. I think the underlying whiskey is the problem. I think it's a very rare case of the finish outdoing the whiskey underneath it. I just don't think that bourbon matured stock, even if it was older, I don't think it had enough oomph. I don't think it had enough weight to carry the finish. It's sort of wearing it like a poorly fitting jacket, to use a visual analogy, but I don't know. Yeah, I think audience participation here would be very, very valuable. If share your memories, or if you've got the damn thing handy, which we do not, give us your comparison and see what you think, because I'd be fascinated to know whether we're on an island here in this opinion, or whether it's more goes wider than that. Who knows? The Great Whiskey Conspiracy. We will see.
I'm sure there are at least some miniatures of the original Quinta Ruban out there.
It's got to be.
See what I can track down.
I'll tap Whiskey Galore and see if they've got. I'll bet they've got one rolling around in there somewhere. We'll get to the bottom of this. We will get to the bottom of this. All right. Maybe check the Facebook or Instagram for the results on that one. If I do a field comparison, I won't be able to record it, but I will get
not much left in that bottle. So
get the info out there. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, Slanger, we will be right back with something completely different. Or possibly slightly similar. I don't know, because I haven't decided what we're doing. Consult the archives. Anyway, we'll be right back.